thank you for joining me. I'm here to talk about eating and nutrition for our kids. And I just noticed I did not change the month because we originally scheduled this back in February, but then not the big flood, but the flood before that, or the rain before that, we had to postpone. So really happy to be here with you all today. My name's Pam Durant, and I'll tell you a little bit more about what I do. But before I begin, I want to highlight a few facts. The WHO is talking more and more about childhood obesity and in adolescence, and it is a growing concern. There's a lot of reasons why that's happening, but the biggest challenges that WHO sees in children, this is all around the world, is obesity, eating disorders, insufficient physical activity, which contributes to obesity, depression, anemia, smoking, and alcohol. And the majority of those are related to food, what we're eating, what our kids are eating, how food is made, and very much related to food. So when I thought about this presentation, I want to talk about, we have smart kids, we have smartphones, but is our food smart enough? Or are we feeding our kids in a way that's going to serve them to continue to grow and become the adults that they need to be? As I mentioned, there's an increase of chronic diseases, not just obesity, diabetes, type 2, other inflammatory diseases that often have a lot to do with food. So this is why food is so important. And I will kind of cover that, but also by the end give you some tips and ideas, which you probably already know, but it's always good to discuss. And if you have any questions, let me know. So a little bit about me. I have 30 years of healthcare experience. I started my career as a healthcare manager working in hospitals and clinics and quality and different things like this, but I always had a special interest in health and wellness. Partially by the way I was brought up. My parents were very much into health and wellness and feeding me organic things before that was like a cool thing to do, and all of that. Sugary cereal was never allowed in our house in the 1970s before people really started talking about it. I'm like, why is it that? But now I know the scientific reasons behind it. I'm also a certified health and wellness coach, certified in lifestyle medicine, which I truly believe that has so much to do about how we can maintain our health, stay healthy over time. Lifestyle medicine pillars include what we eat, movement, are we sleeping, and those things that we do in our environment that is not taking a medicine. Yes, sometimes we need medical intervention, but a lot of things can be prevented or better well managed if we are living well and taking care of ourselves. And one of the big areas of that is food. So just a quick question. Which one of these word clouds do you think defines healthy eating? Is there one that feels? Yeah. The answer is there is no wrong answer. These are all potentially including, and of course there's a focus on diet and nutrition, and diet in the sense of nutrition, not restriction. Food, calories, carbohydrates, food, meal, what you eat. So there's a lot to consider when we talk about food and eating. It's not just what's on your plate. It's all those other small words that go behind it, and all of those and how they relate to our health. So just wanted to share that to get you thinking about food differently, because often also what I've found over time, there's so many opinions, and there's a lot of research behind a lot of those opinions about which diet is best for us. But some people are so insistent that their way is the best way. But there may be more than one way to eat well, but there's a few basic underlying principles that we're going to discuss today. So what is smart eating? As I mentioned, we have smartphones and other smart devices in our life, but smart eating is making thoughtful and informed choices. And what does informed mean? Because we're marketed in a lot of different ways, sometimes fed a lot of misinformation about food, and having a diverse range of nutrient-rich foods from all food groups, and eating mindfully and paying attention to portion size, because I'm sure we're all aware that over time portions have grown exponentially, or perceived portions have grown, and that's really a challenge in causing people to overeat without realizing it. And why does it matter for our kids especially? Besides them staying healthy, the diets that are high in trans fat, they negatively impact learning and memory. And these are all researched, more than 1 or 2 papers on it, heavily researched over time. Nutritional deficiencies early in life affect their cognitive development. Kids that eat well perform higher on exams. They tend to do better in school. They tend to be happier. They tend to be less depressed. And just in general, their overall health is better and their performance. They also are less susceptible to illness. Studies have proven that kids that eat healthy tend to get less flu, less colds, have less inflammatory diseases and other things. And of course, we want to establish these healthy habits in childhood as early as possible. It's not too late if they're teenagers, but it's a little more challenging because they come with a lot of opinions when they're teenagers. And even if you do instill these healthy habits when they're young, even when they're teenagers, some days it can be challenging. So one thing I want to talk about is food and marketing before I get into more of the details about the nutrition, because this really affects our kids in so many ways. It affects us in so many ways as well. I mean, I could just come here and do like a 3-hour discussion about food and marketing because it's a huge business. It's billions of dollars that companies are making and companies spend to convince us to buy their products. For example, the family, the feel good. You see food, you see a commercial, and there's like something there at the table. I even noticed this last few years during Ramadan, there's a soft drink that is hitting the table, and that you're like, and the first time you see it, like, that looks really strange to be there. That does not belong on that table because it's not like part of the typical Ramadan spread that we've seen every year over time. But now we're getting used to that image, and families are together, people are together, and they're very happy. But this is one thing that companies will use to convince us to buy their food. And this is particularly targeted toward us mothers because we want to do what's best for our family. And if our family's happy, then we might think that that food is good. Celebrities, we all know it. They're used excessively to market things. And I think it's still kind of undisclosed what Beyonce received for her Pepsi ad, but I think it was like $1 billion or some ridiculous amount of money. It was not $1 million, but it was excessive. And I'm sure Taylor Swift, that Diet Coke ad came out some time ago. I think if it was done like this year or last year, it would have been probably much, much more because she's a superpower, right? One of the first celebrities to start marketing soft drinks was Michael Jackson. He kind of triggered this, and compared to what celebrities get paid now to market food, it's very, very minimal. Films. Subliminally, we see it all the time, and we don't even realize it. Like Spider-Man flies through, I don't remember if that's Times Square or whatever, and there's like Coca-Cola back there. They, of course, had to pay for that, but they gladly did that to encourage you to see it and want it afterwards. The Happy Meals, we didn't really eat a lot of fast food. I never fed my son fast food. And I would always kind of cringe a bit when we go to a birthday party and there was fast food there, just because I'm like, oh, don't like get your palate used to that. But then they have the toys there and the and it was all fun. I mean, I grew up in a time where there were Happy Meals, but with films releasing like every week, there's almost a new Happy Meal every week that you can't keep up if your child gets into that. Even Transformers. My son told me about this. I was asking him, he's 16 years old, and I said, hey, what comes to your mind when you think of like food marketing? And he's like, oh, Transformers, Oreos. I had no idea. So this particular Transformer liked Oreos. I don't know, he transformed into an Oreo. It gave him power. there's that. And then the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which a lot of us grew up with, and then they reinvented, they ate pizza. Not all pizza is bad. Pizza can be really healthy, but just encouraging more, takeout. Influencers. This is, I think, even some ways more, makes more impression on our children than the movies, the films, than anything else, because they're seeing it all day, every day in their phone. And something just we can't make it disappear, but something we need to really be mindful about and talk to our kids about is what influencers are doing in the area of food. These are some of the top ones. And I consulted with a teenager on this, so Charlie D'Amelio, she started doing videos about Dunkin' Donuts coffee. For every TikTok video she posted, she made $100,000. There are 340 calories in the large size of the coffee that she was talking about on TikTok, with 69 grams of sugar, like 70 grams of sugar in that one thing. Typically, these coffee drinks that you're getting at any outlet, if they're flavored, they are just pumped with sugar. You may as well just give your child a glass of sugar and water. The coffee taste is minimal. Travis Scott meal, he's a rapper. He had a deal with McDonald's, and they named a meal after him because this meal was like his go-to, the quarter pounder with cheese or whatever. So they came together, and he made $20 million off of that deal alone. $20 million. No wonder so many kids want to be influencers. Like, it seems so easy, right? And we know that a small percentage of people on social media and YouTube become influencers, but they are making so much money off of our kids and families' unhealthy choices, or promoting this unhealthy food to our kids. And I don't want to say it's not their fault. I don't even think they realize it, right? That how unhealthy it is. That meal has 1,180 calories just in that meal alone. That's almost like as much calories as I would need for one day, right? If I'm kind of targeting for myself 1,200 calories a day. If I have that meal, I'm done for the day. 50 grams of fat, 150 grams of carbohydrate, and here is the crazy thing, 2,095 milligrams of sodium. We know fast food, it tends to have a lot of sodium, but that's just in that one meal. Paul Logan and KSI came together to make this Prime drink. I've seen those around a lot. The first year of sales, there was $250 million that was made revenue. Now, some reports say you're not sure if that actually went to them or went back into the company. I mean, they're already making millions on their YouTube channels and whatever they do. And then there's some recent alleged discussions that have come out about the plastic that they're using, that they were saying it's sustainable and it's not, but I don't think that's been proven yet. It's still alleged, so I don't know what's going on with that. But the important thing that you need to know about that is the caffeine per can or per bottle is 140 milligrams. Coca-Cola only has 34, I say only, and Red Bull 80. When Red Bull first came to Dubai, I was taking photographs. It was at this kind of surf event, and they were just passing it out. I'd never heard of it. And I'm like, okay, I tried one. I had the most productive day ever because I was so hyped up on caffeine. I did the thing in the morning, I did the errands, I cleaned the house, and I just like, go, go, go. And okay, that's okay. I love my coffee, like love coffee. I'm sad when I finish my coffee in the morning and I don't drink coffee in the afternoon because that personally affects me. But 140 milligrams of coffee for our kids that are already overexposed to blue light and everything else that's gonna keep them up is a lot.
Is there a Prime that is caffeine-free, that the little kids are drinking, that is still high in sugar? Does it exist? Because they keep trying to convince me that there is this one that has no caffeine.
That's a good question. I do not know. No, I don't know. And so surprisingly, when I searched the nutritional value of Prime, this particular Prime, it didn't have sugar in it. They're promoting that it's like vitamin B, had very minimal sugar. The problem with the Prime was the caffeine. I would say just check the labels. I'm going to talk.
What's it sweetened with then?
It's probably an artificial sweetener. And we could do a whole nother talk about those because some are good, some are better than others, some are not good. So I'm not even sure what they sweeten with, but this was, yeah, more for the caffeine.
It says that, I just looked it up, that prime hydration is caffeine free.
Yeah, I think that's what the little guys are trying to.
What's it say, prime
Prime
hydration?
hydration.
Yeah. When it first came out, my son came to me. He's like, "Yeah, there's this new drink like for gamers to hydrate, when they're playing, and they don't have time to get up from their game." And I'm like, "You're not a gamer, number one. And if you were, you'd get up and walk to the kitchen and get some water, because really, sport drinks and even like." Honestly, we're recording this and I'm calling out brands, and some of your families, or you might even work at some of those companies. Yes, we all need to work, but this is just, for discussion. So I'm not here to like diss on the brands, I want to say, but Gatorade, right? It's everywhere. And I even drink it from time to time. It's my favorite go-to when I'm flu-like. Give me a Gatorade and Panadol and I'm like, okay. But the challenge with Gatorade is the bottles over the years have gotten bigger. They're full of sugar. After every single 1 hour session of whatever sport, kids are really drinking those a lot. If you're running like a marathon or an ultra marathon, those make sense. But if you're doing you're a kid and you're doing 1 hour of sport and activity, if you're eating healthy, if you don't have any shortage of electrolytes, water is great. And that's what I love about ASD, that there's water everywhere, and we promote drinking, water for our kids. But we got to be careful in the sugars of those, and food coloring and everything else. And Mr. Beast, he's, I guess, one of the highest, if not the highest paid YouTuber. He made $100 million in revenue just in 2 years from his new fast food chain. And then in one of his burgers, the most popular burger that they sell, it's called the Beast Burger, I think it was, 66 grams of fat. Yes, it's high in protein because, burger has a meat in it. And then the carbs, 43, but 66 grams of fat is quite a lot. And there's so many other examples of this, but I just wanted to touch on this for a bit so that, yes, we see our kids watching these things and it's entertainment for them, but at the same time, it's influencing them in ways that we didn't even think of. Like we're thinking that the influence of TikTok and all of this stuff is negative, but one of the also other, mental health and all of those other areas that's not helping them is the influence of nutrition messages or lack of nutrition. In one study, I want to point out, there's more studies coming out over time, but one of the most recent ones and prevalent ones was done in Germany. And they only studied, done in Austria, and they only studied German-speaking influencers on TikTok. And they found that the food and everything that they were promoting, WHO said none of this food should even be marketed to children. It should be illegal. And of course, EU would be one of the first ones to kind of try to control that or minimize it. So that might be some policy that comes out later, perhaps in Europe or somewhere, that you need to have a certain nutritional value of food before you can market it to children. That could be really helpful because it's very hard for us to control. And when they're scrolling through all these things very quickly, we can't just constantly look over their shoulder. So what can we do? So red flag, if you're consuming processed food daily, here I said more than twice a week. I know sometimes that's hard. There's parties, there's things. It's around, it's everywhere. And we're all pressed for time. I really appreciate you coming, or if you're listening to the replay, listening, because I know how pressed we are for time. And what is the closest thing, after school, if you got to run out and get something, the closest thing that you can take your kid to eat here is a fast food place. It's not easy to get healthy food when you need it, and it's hard to stay up all night, meal prep, doing all the things, right? Even if we have help at home, it's still challenging to do it all. So minimize your consumption of processed food. Irregular meals, that always makes us eat something fast and junky. If we don't have it well planned out, I know, again, that's really hard. Try to plan it as much as you can. Order in advance for the week. Kibsons and all of that is great that we can order fresh, healthy food and have it available. And limited variety in meals, that can also lead to a lot of nutritional problems. How can we counterbalance that? Create a healthy eating environment at home. You can't always control what's going on outside. You can't control what's being served at the party, at the birthday party, or if your kids are older and they're hanging out, they're going to the mall. You can't control what they're eating. I mean, even before a band concert last week, my son and his friends, they ordered, I don't know what, and he came home with all this iced tea, extra iced tea, which is just basically sugar. And I'm like, it's not even something he would like go to and drink, but you know, they get into the group think of the junk food, and it is what it is. So I'm not saying like be so rigid, like you forbid it everywhere, because everything in moderation. Processed food's not gonna go away, but really creating a healthy eating environment at home so that they know that that's what's normal and healthy. Regular family meals with a nutritious focus when you can. It is scientifically proven that kids that have regular family meals perform better at school. Higher test scores. Fruit and vegetables are always around for snacking. Make them as part of main meals. I tend to, also for myself, I love crunchy things. And processed food, like potato chips or Pringles or whatever, they are produced in a lab on purpose so that when we eat it, we get a hit of dopamine and we'll keep eating it. They are designed to be addictive, and I love them, and they succeeded. So I don't keep those kind of things at home because not only are they bad for my family, but they are also not healthy for me, and I will eat them all. I love crunchy stuff. Really, I love it, so I won't buy it. So I keep healthy foods at home for snack. And also involving your child in meal prep or taking them grocery shopping. I know that can be tricky because that cereal line is down there in the bottom if you got small ones, and you know, all of that. It's like herding cats if you got more than one or whatever. But if you can get them involved in meal prep, that is so helpful. And one of the biggest things when my child was younger that really changed and shifted the way that we talked about food, I think it was during COVID times actually, we were in lockdown, and we started watching MasterChef Junior together. If there's a certain TV show about cooking, whatever it is, Chef's Table, not designed for kids, but it's beautiful. Travel food, if you can even watch something like that with your child for 10, 15 minutes, whatever it is, geared toward children or not, it will open up this whole discussion about food. And they'll start going, oh, he's like cooking that really badly, that's wrong. Oh my gosh, he used that much butter. I mean, they know. So it really opens up the discussion about health and nutrition, and that's not a bad thing. Even if you're talking about bad food, it's not a bad thing. Eating the rainbow is one of the easiest rules that you can do. Eating a fresh, healthy plate of many different colors of food will be full of micronutrients. If your plate is all the same color, it's probably not as healthy and well-balanced. And for younger children especially, that's super exciting to eat a rainbow. You can give them a challenge. Do you have all the colors of the rainbow? So other red flags, lack of understanding about the importance of nutrition and the impact on health at whatever is age appropriate. So of course we don't want to be, like I said, fully rigid and really restrict for our kids, but we just want to teach them in moderation over time, you know, about healthy food. And it doesn't even have to be like us saying that is bad. You can flip that and say, what do you think of that meal? Do you think that's really healthy, or which one do you think is healthier? Like, give them the choices, ask them the questions. And most likely through what they're learning at school or what they hear from their peers, they will reflect back to you what they know about food, and they love to share their thoughts and ideas, as we know. And misconceptions about healthy eating, viewing junk food as acceptable for daily consumption. If you're packing lunch or whatever their choices are, you don't want that to be daily. Like, I'll never forget when my son was in primary school, he came home to me one day and he said, so Mommy, today, you know what this boy had for lunch? And I didn't ask. He's the one that opened the conversation. I said, no, what did he bring for lunch? A bag of marshmallows. Now that was not in the school, so no one worry, it wasn't, but a bag of marshmallows at lunch. And what I'm assuming maybe happened is maybe the parent didn't prepare the lunch and didn't realize what it was. And You know, if we have help at home, sometimes they don't want to upset the child. And so the child said, I want marshmallows for lunch today. And he took a bag of marshmallows. Perhaps. I don't think any of us are going to be sending our kids to school with a bag of marshmallows, but that's not healthy. And we don't want to see that every day, of course. If your child is constantly drawn to processed food, sugary snacks, that's because they are designed to do that. Those companies will make money as long as we keep buying their food and keep feeding it. They are highly addictive. There's an article, if you go to Google and you search Newsweek processed food, there was an article that came out a few years ago. It said processed food is more addictive than drugs, like hard drugs, on purpose. It's quite the frightening article, and it's all scientifically based. And also, if there's resistance to trying new foods or reluctant to eat it, very normal, because food is one of the first kind of power plays that kids throw at you. They want to have control over it. I always kind of got over that by putting 2 healthy choices on the table and saying you can have cucumbers or carrots. There was like no other choice. And if they didn't want it, they didn't want it. So that's what was for dinner. They're like, no, I don't want to eat this for dinner. Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have any other food. And after a while, they'll, go along with it. Give yourself a gold star if you actively seek information and resources to learn about nutrition, like coming here today. Thank you so much. Incorporating it into your daily routines where you talk about it, different food choices. As I mentioned, maintaining a healthy kitchen. There are certain staples that you can keep in your kitchen. Yes, it's all, my son, actually, I posted about this a few days ago. My son, kind of making fun of me, said, Mom, we don't have any snacks. We're an ingredient household. I said, what is an ingredient household? I'd never heard of it before, but apparently, after some research, I learned the term has been around for some time. An ingredient household has all the ingredients to make things, but no fast food. Which, translation, Mom, you're not cool, right? But I'm like, hey, and I was so surprised though when I shared that so many people said, yeah, my child said the same thing about me too. I said, okay, well done. If you're an ingredient household, then that means you're preparing whole and healthy meals. We all have a little, from time to time, there will be snacks that are pre-prepared, and that is okay. But primarily, you want to be an ingredient household. And lead by example with your own healthy eating habits. I always cringe sometimes if I'm not eating something so healthy, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this, or I'm taking my kid here or there or whatever. It happens. It's not about total restriction, but it's about being healthy most of the time, exercising most of the time, everything in moderation, and just making healthy choices because they do watch us, always. And whatever we do, they're going to do. It's not, do as I say kind of thing. So some food basics that, if you're not doing it already, that can be helpful. How many of you read food labels? That's good. Awesome. Okay. The important thing about food labels, of course, they need protein, carbohydrates, and fat. Our kids need all of these. Macronutrients, helps their brain grow, helps their bodies grow. Like I mentioned, healthy ingredients keep them happy, help them support them with their mental health, decreases chronic conditions, decreases inflammatory diseases, and a whole host of other things. So these are the primary things that you want to consider. Protein in general, kids need to eat about 0.5 grams of protein for every 0.5 kilograms they weigh. I would say don't obsess over that because then you're going to be calculating, our kids are growing so fast we won't be able to really keep up with that. But these are the things to do and avoid the trans fats. Simple carbohydrates are broken down very quickly and are not typically healthy for our children. Sometimes, yes, they do have a place. Even some fruits can be considered simple carbohydrates, but you really want to lean into complex carbohydrates because those have more fiber, those have more health benefits than just the simple kind of sugar. And then the micronutrients, which is all the vitamins and minerals that are in the food. And this is why it's important to eat the rainbow, because then you will be exposed. And these are just a few. There's many more micronutrients in our foods. When you start reading the health benefits or the micronutrients of a strawberry or of beans, there's a whole host of things and a lot of things that are studied about that particular micronutrient. Are vitamins helpful? Maybe yes, maybe no. Every person's different. Every vitamin's different. And there's always constant research about how things are absorbed. We know for iron to be absorbed, it needs to have vitamin C with it and all of these different things. But to start, if you're giving your child not a well-rounded, healthy plate or healthy food, and you're giving them vitamins, then there's not as much health benefit there because they're still eating the junk food. Nothing can replace eating that. One thing I just want to point out about labels is less is more. This particular orange juice on this side has only 100% orange juice. If you pick up a label, and usually 3 to 5 ingredients maximum is great. And you need, if you understand what those are. If it's like a word that we can't pronounce, or yellow number 6 and yellow number 5, not sure what that is. I mean, obviously it's food coloring, but that's not really telling me that this is healthy. This one contains 100% pure organic juice. And even especially with juices, we think they're healthy, but juice boxes often have as much sugar as a Coca-Cola or as a soft drink. My son happens to have type 1 diabetes. Juice box is his go-to to drink when he's having a low blood sugar, and it is fast acting, and it spikes your blood sugar. I don't have Coca-Cola in the house or other soft drinks, but if I did, I could give him one of those and to balance his blood sugar if he's having a low blood sugar. So you need to be really mindful of juice boxes because we think, oh, it's juice, it's great for a party, but no two juices are alike, and different brands are made in different ways and have different things. So even if they say 100% pure orange juice, I will still double check the label because sometimes the way that they market it or the way they claim it can be a little bit false. And this one has, vitamin C, potassium, all the things you would expect to see. This one has no potassium, nothing in it. It has 100% vitamin C, but most likely that's supplemented. That's not from this. This is like an orange drink rather than 100% orange juice. Empty calories, as I mentioned, everything on that plate is empty calorie. And sometimes you'll see, if there's a party, parties are full of empty calories. There's no shame in sending the vegetable or fruit plate to the school party. Been there, done that. And I even got called out like, Mom, maybe, why do you always send like the vegetable plate? And I'm like, one, because it's like easier and faster, but I would still send it. Every time I sent it, there was almost nothing left. They went for the other junk food too. But kids would take grapes, they would take carrots, they would eat cucumbers because they were eating it at home. So I don't know what the turning point was, and I've researched this and looked, and I can't find what is the turning point where we associate celebration with junk food. Somewhere along the way, and then it became like exclusively junk food. Like, oh, hey, let's go, that's great, let's go celebrate with, something that's ultra processed and has no nutritional value, and it's going to make you not do as good as you did on this previous exam, like diminishing margin of returns. So be mindful of what's on your child's plate on a regular basis. Like I said, the one-off, we have to live in the modern world, and it's not going to go away. The best way to do this is think about the healthy eating plate. So the Harvard T-Chan School of Public Health did a lot of research on this, and other countries, Canada has a great healthy plate. Very similar. And the similar thing about them is 50% of the plate is fruits and vegetables. And that is whole plant-based, not ultra-processed. If you don't have access or you find things are not getting cheaper, like eating organic is very expensive, so maybe it's not organic. And if that's not accessible, there's a lot of people around the world that they live in food deserts where they don't have access to locally grown foods. We're very lucky in Dubai. Things come from everywhere. We have access to everything all year long. But if you're in a food desert and you can't access food or for whatever reason, canned is better than nothing. Frozen fruits and vegetables are better than nothing. Fresh is always great, but eating canned green beans is going to be better than eating something that's ultra processed. because most likely in the green bean can, it's like green beans and water. It's not going to taste as good in my opinion. I don't like canned green beans. I love the raw ones, but if that's what's available to you, then that is healthier. And then whole grains, like I said, whole grain pasta, brown rice, kind of a rule of thumb is if it's white, it doesn't likely have as much nutritional value. Now, if you do have a child with like celiac or gluten intolerance, rice pastas and things like that, they're white. And, that's going to be good. But limit like white bread, ultra processed bread is not good. And then healthy proteins. I am all for plant-based eating, and that is one of the principles of lifestyle medicine. I am never going to tell anyone to be a vegetarian. I personally don't like meat. I could easily be a vegetarian, but I don't always get enough protein. So, everything in moderation, but just make sure the protein that you're selecting is like lean cut, healthy. Fish is great, omegas, we all know about that. Avoiding processed foods and processed meats as much as possible. More studies are coming out about that. And there was even one a couple years ago that eating hot dogs, they calculated by how much it shortens your life. That is ultra processed. My son was disappointed to hear that. And we don't have hot dogs at home. And there's just something about the novelty of the hot dog. And I told him, I'm like, hey, you tell your friends, like, look at this, like hot dog's not good. And they're just like, yeah, okay. But, they're complacent teenage boys right now. And, but plant the seeds. They may not be open to that idea now, but it's just having the discussion and planting the seed that, hey, research says hot dogs are really not good for you. And the drink of choice is water. If you look at the US FDA Healthy Plate, it'll have a glass of milk. There's a lot of controversy with dairy sometimes, but water is the best thing that we can drink. We don't get enough of it. Even here, even though we're carrying our bottles and we're constantly drinking water, we're constantly sweating and we don't even realize it because we live in a very hot climate. So we need to drink water. That is the best thing that we can drink. And soda consumption. I just want to leave you with this and one other thought. Cutting out sodas and, like I said, Gatorade and other things, even though that's not included in here, sport drinks, is one of the easiest things that we can do if your child is consuming sugary drinks. If you look at so this is annual global soda consumption versus the GDP per capita, and US was all the way up here. When I first pulled this out, it was for a presentation in the US. UAE, we're here. Annual soda consumption per capita, that for UAE, that's about 125. That's more than one a week, right? That's more than maybe 2 a week. So, and that's in liters, not like half liters that's liters. It's a lot. People then, after we talk about food and nutrition, often ask, how much should my child be eating or what should they be eating? In general, these are some guidelines. It might vary depending on which country or which region, because sometimes like EU nutritional values might differ from US nutritional values, but this is a general guideline. The higher end, it'll depend on how active your child is, or how active your family is. We are so not active here, and I think we all see this when we go on holiday or we travel somewhere to Europe or another country. We are walking everywhere and we're eating all the things, and we come back and we don't gain weight. But as soon as we come back, we're in our chair, we're working, our kids are studying, and it's extremely hot outside. It's too hot to really start walking anywhere. So we really need to check in with the calories, but it's not just about the calories, it's what's in the calories, what kind of calories are they eating. And I remember when I first put this table in here years ago, and my son was much younger, but he's now 16. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, 2,000 to 2,400, because he seems to be hungry like all the time. And I guess Dr. Omema knows better than me, but like the growth spurts and all of that. I'm like, really? Again, hungry? How can that be? And that, it's hard when they're going through a growth spurt and they seem to be hungry all the time to get healthy food in front of them on their plate. Fiber helps, food with fiber helps because that makes them more full, makes us more full as well. But it's hard to convince kids to, have the side salad with their meal and stuff like that. So carbohydrates should make up about 45 to 65% of total daily calories. And that's why it's important. That's why I shared the carbohydrates of some of those fast food meals and things, because it's much more than that. Just in that one meal, you're getting that much, if not more. And healthy fats. We all know about trans fats and what fats are good for us. Olive oil, omegas, fats from fish and things like this are super important. So yeah, that's my social media, and I share a lot of stuff on DiaPoint focuses on diabetes. So I share, our company, we share a lot about diabetes management and different things there. At Coach Pamela D, that's where I share a lot about nutrition, not so much for children, more for adults, and kind of myth busting from time to time when I have time, and a lot of other health related articles. So thank you so much for coming.